And I'm back. It's 2:45 in the morning, Sunday, March 12th, 2023. I just noticed that there is a time and date on the new Obama phone. That's the time. Just seeing 4 numbers in a square like that, it just doesn't register as time to me. And the date is in tiny, tiny text on the upper left hand above it. Hopefully there's some options to change that view. I mean, it's doable. It's doable, but I don't know. I don't like it. I think they're trying too hard to look cool and failing miserably. And I've mentioned before, it just seems like every single Android phone just looks, just the way they operate and look is just so annoyingly different. I don't know. I'm the kind of guy that just appreciates uniformity and stuff, and I guess that's why these days a lot more fond of iOS. Still got a lot of mixed feelings out of the phone. Overall, I like it though. I was thinking that white SUV on the right was Priscilla's. I'm guessing she probably went by my place, saw I wasn't there, went home. Or maybe she just straight up went home, considering how little I was messaging her back. And she messaged me when I was over at Aunt Nick's, asking if I'd picked up my car, and said she was worried I might have stolen it, which just seems like straight bullshit to me. Because I'm sure if Kimmy didn't tell her, that I had come by, but decided not to go in because she told me that she was there, and just was grabbing my car and left. If Kimmy didn't tell her that, which it's possible Kimmy didn't, it could be that Kimmy's just like, oh damn, it's not happy with Priscilla right now, and just decided to not be a part of that. But if Kimmy didn't tell her, there's just no way Ebony's friend, older black woman, I can't remember her name. She's got a friend that used to roll with her to karaoke, like all the time at Wander Inn. Who hasn't been there in a long time. I haven't seen her in a long time. I was seeing her there when I went to grab my car. First time I've seen her in a long time. But yeah, she had a friend that always just seemed to have kind of a sour disposition. And damned if I can remember her name, but she was there. Didn't see Ebony. Presumably Ebony was inside. But yeah, she was sitting alone on the bed. Well, not alone. She was sitting there, and Kimmy was sitting there. Kimmy, the host. Yeah, if Kimmy didn't tell her I was there, and then decided not to go in because Priscilla was there. If Kimmy didn't tell her, surely Ebony's friend. Maybe. I don't know for sure. Maybe neither of them did. Maybe Priscilla did genuinely think that somebody stole my car. Kind of doubt it though. I think that's just a bullshit line that she thought to give. Anyway, I did promptly respond back because I was sitting at, at least I think I promptly responded back. Actually, maybe it wasn't such a prompt response. I don't know. I certainly didn't see the message come in, and I just was sitting there and looked at my iPhone and saw I had a message from her. So I had an earlier message from her also asking if, or letting me know that my car was still at the bar and still perfectly fine. I have no idea what time that message came in. Most likely she sent it while I was asleep and my phone was dead, and then it showed up on the phone later after I powered it up, but not immediately after I powered it up, because I certainly didn't notice that message before I left my place. Which isn't to say that it wasn't there. I didn't really take a while, especially when you're talking about videos like mine, which are typically 30 minutes to an hour in length. While it does it, it must be the foreground application. You cannot multitask or do anything else with your iPhone while it's doing that. And it takes a while. Like, generally speaking, things that take a while on a computer or a smartphone, mobile computing device, things that take a while those things are happening, I generally go to another app and do something else. And that's not an option when exporting. A finished project with iMovie. And what's even more annoying than that is, if any kind of pop-up happens, although the only pop-up that I've noticed this does this with, so maybe it's not any kind, maybe it's just specifically this one, but if the phone hits 20% power while it's exporting, and it's not plugged in, which, you know, most of the time I'm not using my phone plugged in because it's just the cords, even if I am at home, just because the cord is physically in the way. When I plug it in, or when it hits that 20% low battery, and it gives me the pop-up asking, notifying me that my battery's at only 20%, and asking if I want to switch to low power mode, which I wish I could disable that. That's annoying as fuck to me. I don't ever want to switch to low power mode. In fact, if I could completely remove that feature from my phone as a feature I don't use, like I could uninstall an app I don't use, I would, because I just rather manage my own power by shutting off the screen. Other than that, no, I want the screen at full brightness so I can fucking see it. I find low power mode, if I inadvertently turn it on, to be very, very, very annoying. When the battery dies, it fucking dies. I'll deal with it. But don't reduce the functionality of my phone by putting it into low power mode. Not interested. Ever. I don't know that there's a setting to disable that pop-up from happening, though. And that option from happening if I inadvertently touch the wrong part of the screen when it pops up. Anyway, if that pop-up happens while I'm using iMovie and exporting a film, video, whatever you want to call it, it stops, completely stops the export process. And then once I click no to the answer, do I want to put it in low power mode? Because no, I don't ever want to put it in low power mode. When I click no, then I'll see another pop-up that's right behind it that tells me that I must keep iMovie in the foreground to export, and that it has canceled my export, which means I have to start it all over again. So if it's something that's going to take 10-15 minutes to export, sometimes, I don't know, I've never timed it, I don't know that it takes that long, but it always feels like it takes a really long time when it's exporting a video, which, like, my videos are typically 30 minutes to an hour. If I'm compiling stuff together, it's long. I mean, sometimes they're as long as an hour and 30 minutes, so it takes a while. Never timed how long it takes, but it takes a while. Anyway, when I'm exporting, it'll cancel that, and then I have to start that over again, start that whole process over again. So it makes something that's a long and tedious process an even longer and tedious process. All to a pop-up that I don't want to ever happen anyway. So there's plenty of things in iOS that annoy me, and that's certainly one of them. Definitely my least favorite. The thing that bothers me the most about iMovie, because I should just be able to start the export process and just go to another app and have the phone just simply do that as a background process. There's certainly other things that I do like that. The most notable one being uploading videos to YouTube, because sometimes that takes hours, depending on how much bandwidth I got. And I just started uploading. Now, granted, I've noticed it definitely uploads faster if I keep that in the foreground. Definitely uploads faster if I keep it in the foreground, but If I decide I want to go watch other YouTube videos, or I want to fart around on TikTok, or I want to check my email, or just whatever else, or hey, go edit something in iMovie, I can do all of that stuff, and the YouTube app will continue to upload in the background. So, if anybody from Apple development is listening to my blog, please fix that in iMovie. And of course, it wouldn't matter if they fix that in iMovie, because I'm already to the point where I can't download the latest version of iMovie. Because whenever I delete iMovie because I need to free up space on the phone, because I've found sometimes the cache just sucks up lots of space. And the only way I've found to reliably get rid of it is to uninstall it and then reboot the phone and reinstall it, and then it ends up taking way less space on the fresh install. Are you changing lanes or not, dude? When I do that, I go to the Apple App Store to download and install it again. I do get a pop-up notice telling me that my device is no longer capable of running the current version of iMovie, and that it's downloading version what the fuck ever it is instead. So, even if they did in a new version of iMovie get rid of this stupid must be the foreground application while exporting annoyance, even if they did fix it, I wouldn't get that fixed. So I should really be looking for another app for video editing. I struggle with learning that kind of stuff. And the thought of the learning curve of learning another app is not appealing to me. But yeah, iMovie annoys me. That's the biggest annoyance. Second biggest annoyance is that I can't, and I know I'm not alone in this. Every time I've Googled trying to find out like where I don't have enough space to export what I'm trying to export, and I'm trying to find out like what I can do to delete stuff out of cache, or what I can do. I find that a lot of people have asked this question in various forums and are frustrated with it. Other iPhone users and iMovie users wanting to know, well, why can't they? Why is it when they take, why is it 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4? Why is it 2 plus 2 equals 9? I'm pulling numbers out of my ass, but like you have a 2 gig file and a 2 gig file, and you put them together, and that's all you do is use iMovie to put them together into a single video and then export it. Your 2 gig plus your 2 gig doesn't equal an 8 gig file. It ends up being or your 2 plus 2 doesn't do an Apple man. 2 plus 2 doesn't end up being a 4 gig file, and it's being like an 8 gig file. Now there is an option when you export to set your video resolution, and if everything I'm giving it is 720p, by default it's choosing 720p. Granted, I could drop it to 480p, but it doesn't give me an option to set my output video bitrate or relative video quality, and I would certainly like that to be an option. To me, the no-brainer would be to match the bit rate of the two videos that I'm giving it, so that 2 plus 2 equals 4, as opposed to 2 plus 2 equaling 8. That's the second most annoying thing to me about iMovie on the iPhone. Nowhere near as annoying as that whole foreground, having to have it as the foreground application while I'm exporting, and then the potential of hitting 20% on the battery and that pop-up interrupting it and having to start over again, while iOS asks me a question that the answer is always no to. Like, you think eventually the Siri AI that's part of the operating system would eventually notice that every single time for years that it's asked me that question. Well, I want to say every single time for years it's asked me that question that I click no, but I guess sometimes I do click yes. But I'm not intentionally clicking yes. I'm using something on my phone, and that pop-up pops up on my phone that I don't ever want to show up, and I inadvertently click yes. Speaking of speaking of Siri, noticing my behavior and making decisions as a result of it, I had a pop-up from Siri the other day that cracked me up. I don't recall what exactly it was I was doing on my iPhone, but I was doing multiple things on my iPhone at the time. And Priscilla was texting me, but there was really no substance to the text. Oh, speaking of texts from women that are no substance to the text, has anybody seen the last episode of South Park? Now, to be fair, I have not seen the last episode, but I saw a couple clips on the South Park YouTube channel from it, and one of them that had me absolutely cracking up is, I forget the name of the character, but Kyle is back with the little girl that wants to be his girlfriend and makes him so nervous, and they're like back to being a thing, and she's always texting him, and I guess he was like regularly responding to her just substanceless, chick texts with a thumbs up emoji, and apparently she didn't like that. And then he asked like one of his friends, and I forget which one of the kids at South Park he asked about it, like, what can I do about this? She doesn't like me to give it a thumbs up, but I don't really know what to say to her. And this other kid on South Park, his brilliant solution is, oh, well, you just need to use the AI chatbot. He'll have the perfect response. and it shows this kid using his like smartphone, getting a text from a chick, and then he copies and pastes that text into the AI chatbot. I've never used any of them. There's several of them. I don't know the names of them, but uses the AI chatbot to paste the text into it, and then the chatbot responds to it, and then he copies and pastes this response and texts it back to the girl that texted him. Anyway, Kyle, I think the character's Kyle, the kid on South Park, starts doing this, and it shows this absolutely awesome montage with this great romantic song that I think is probably an original song by DVDA in the background. For those who don't know, Matt and Trey do a lot of their own original music for South Park, and my car just stalled out again. God damn it. Can't even say it's cold now because I've been nonstop driving for hours at this point. Yeah, Matt and Trey do a lot of their own original music, for those who don't know. God, so many songs from them that I absolutely love. Probably my favorite is Gay Fish, which is supposed to be a Kanye West parody. But a lot of good ones from the South Park movie, The Bigger, Longer, Uncut. But there have been many songs over the years they've done. But I think this is a new original song. I'm not sure. Haven't really researched it, but I'm thinking most likely probably a new original song from Matt and Trey as DVDA. That's what they record as when they're a band making original music for their shows. But yeah, this silly romantic song is playing in the background as she's just enthralled and in love because she's getting all these great texts back from Kyle, and then you see Kyle like sometimes sitting on the toilet or just doing whatever he's doing, copying and pasting her texts into the AI chat and copy and pasting back its response. Funny shit. I wonder what would happen if I did that with Priscilla. It's genuinely tempting. No, when I have nothing more to say to her, I just don't text her back. I don't feel like I'm ghosting her per se. I just have nothing else to say, And sometimes I'm doing other things on my phone that are more pertinent to me, in the now, than texting her. So anyway, in the midst of that, she's like just kind of hitting me with a bunch of texts. I shouldn't say substanceless. I mean, they're valid texts. It's just something I feel I need to respond immediately to. And I get this pop-up from I screenshot it because it was hysterical to me. I get this pop-up from Siri, from iOS, asking if I wanted to mute my conversation with her. I didn't even know that was an option. I did not click yes. I did not want to mute the conversation. I'll respond to her when I'm get around to responding to her. But But the fact that iOS thought that I might want to do that, I thought was hysterical. Anyway, I'm going inside. I'm going to try to talk to HR and fix this issue that I have with my... So I was trying to explain that earlier. It was the day I was doing... had my TDR retrain class, which was largely a waste of time and boring, but it's what I got to do to get back to doing TDR, which I am back to doing TDR again. And I was super tired. Like, I was just struggling to stay awake that day. And that was the second day. That was like after 2 days of staying the day at Priscilla's place. And getting late both days. That's a good thing. Makes it worthwhile in there. And she, anyway, so I was like just straight up falling asleep. Well, by the time I finished and I did my one-on-one with Jessica for practical training on paper, couldn't do it with the tablet because there was some kind of a network problem that was stopping the Fire tablets from, the Kindle Fire tablets from getting on the network. So she's like, well, you're going to have to do that, later, either when the network comes up and I'll come get you later. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to go home. Because I was just tired, like deliriously tired. And I just didn't feel like I was in any just physical shape to work. And it's not very often that I go home early because I was tired. Very, very rarely that I do that. But yeah, I went over and talked to my manager. And I feel like I mentioned this in this vlog already, but yeah, I told... oh my God, I'm forgetting his name now too. I'm so bad with names. Dustin. I told him Dustin was struggling trying to reload the paper in a label printer. It's like, do you know how to do this? I'm like, dude, I know how to do that. Why don't you let me handle the printer? Can you get me some VTO? No, I don't have any VTO to give out. I'm like, well, I'm entirely too tired to be doing any work. So rather than plow, so I hope it doesn't bother you, but I'm just going to go home. I mean, not that he could tell me no anyway. I'm telling him as a courtesy. The way Amazon works, you can just clock out and leave whenever. But it is a nice thing to at least let your leadership know if they're counting on you doing work, especially considering how much that department relies on me and how much work I typically do when I'm here. That, yeah, I'm back from TDR class and wasn't able to finish it because of network issues that you're surely dealing with right now. And yeah, I'm not coming back to work. I'm too freaking tired. But, I just told him point blank. It's not like I'm lazy and want to go home. It's just a matter of I'm super drowsy. I'm super drowsy to the point I feel delirious and don't really want to run the risk of ramming a forklift into something or running over my own foot with a pallet jack. So I'm just going to go rather than be a safety hazard. Anyway, it was that time. I clocked out. And once I clocked out right at 2:01 in the morning, and I found that after, like, in the whole thing of, like, minutes equaling an hour of UPT, it's on even hours up until lunchtime, and then it's on half hours after lunchtime. So because I clocked out at 2:01, it's counting the time between 2:01 and 2:30 a.m. as a full hour. Yeah, I want to use PTO on that, and I tried to do it in the system. For some reason, it applied it to the next day. So on the next day, I'm getting paid PTO for time that I was actually on the clock working, which you're not supposed to do, but the app let me do it. And it didn't apply the PTO to the day that I left early. So I've lost an hour of UPT for 29 minutes. And anyway, I don't know how to fix it in the app. I don't even know if I can fix it in the app, but I'm going in to see if HR can help me straighten that out. So I'll probably be back driving around talking to myself later. Yeah, I'm very much in overshare mode right now. So thanks for coming along with me for that. And I'm back. It's still Sunday morning. Early Sunday morning, late Saturday night, depending on your perspective. 3:37 a.m. Sunday, March 12th, 2022. So I feel like such an idiot coming in here on my day off. At least I'm not one of those persons that's coming in on his day off that misread his schedule and is trying to work. Car's idling. Guy's probably getting high in his car at times. Dude, break time is over. Although, if that guy wants to take an extra 30-minute break and puts it in his PTO, that's completely allowed by Amazon attendance policy. Amazon's got such a bizarre attendance policy. I mean, there's things I don't like about it. There's things I for the most part, I love it. But maybe he's going home early. Looks like he's driving out. She's driving out. Yeah, from what I understand, if I didn't take care of this now by 7 a.m. this morning, it would have been too late to fix it. So HR did fix it. I showed her what I did, and it was pretty obvious. And she explained like how I made my mistake. I basically, even though I was trying to put in for, oh God, I'm so tired of this stupid thing stalling out. Even though I was trying to put in PTO for 2:01 a.m. to, are you done dinging yet? For 2:01 a.m. through 2:30 a.m., so 29 minutes. 29 minutes of PTO in lieu of a full hour of UPT. I'd done the time right, but even though I forget what date it would have been, but I put it in for the date that time would be, and just the way the system is programmed, because that shift started the previous day, I needed to put in that date. So even though it's, I don't know, that's one of those many things. Working graveyards gets confusing when you're dealing with that kind of stuff. Like what's considered, like everybody that's working right, like for instance, everybody that's working right now in the system is coded as working a Saturday night. If they started their shift before midnight. But if they started their shift after midnight, like say they just were in for a second half shift, because Amazon does half shifts, they schedule half shifts. If they came in and started their shift at 12:30, then they're working it's in the system as a Sunday morning. But anyone who came in and started work at 7 or later is in the system is working on a Saturday night. And then it gets extra confusing on Saturday night, Sunday morning, because anybody who started at 12:30 a.m. is starting their work week for the new pay period, whereas everybody who started at 7 p.m. is working a Saturday shift and finishing the last day of the previous pay period. That makes sense. I'm trying to explain it. I find myself confusing myself. But anyway. But yeah, I was kind of discussing how that works and how that sometimes screws you for being able to pick up more VET shifts because of the way it codes it. I don't think she knew it did that until I explained it to her. She's like, oh, she goes, that's stupid. I'm like, yeah. I said, I wish they would fix that. And then I wanted to show her how, like, where I put in, had that made it look like I worked a Thursday when I didn't work a Thursday, and how I think that prevented me from getting any kind of an overtime shift on Saturday, or on Friday, I mean. Not that, I don't even know if there was any overtime available to go out, but if there was, like, I'm sure the system wouldn't have offered it to me because it looked like I had a Thursday shift. Anyway, yeah, there's the specifics on the A to Z and the scheduling and the stuff. It gets confusing, but I mean, she fully understood what I did. And the funny thing is, since I had put in, like, inadvertently put in PTO, at a time when I actually worked and was on the clock and working, which to me it seems bizarre it even let me do that. I mean, I didn't do it while I did it, but I did it for a time where I was here and working. So it let me do it. Like, so I could conceivably get paid for my paid time. So I'm basically getting paid double for that time period. Like, because I'm same hourly rate for PTO versus for regular hours. And I didn't hit overtime at all, I think, last week. So, yeah, I definitely didn't hit overtime last week because of the little time I took off because I was drowsy. Well, my paycheck's going to suck. But I've heard, now I haven't heard this from management, I haven't heard this from HR, but I've heard it talked about in the Amazon FC subreddit that if you do that, at least if you deliberately do that, like say you want to get yourself a bigger check, so you put yourself in for like 5 hours of PTO on a day that you worked, for a time where you worked that full 5 hours, that they can conceivably write you up and even fire you for time theft. They call it time theft. Which is functionally what I'd done. Like, it was unintentional. I just put in the actual date versus the, I guess you'd call it virtual date of the shift. So it ended up applying it for the following day. But I don't know if those kind of write-ups are like, if those write-ups are generated by an algorithm, it's probably not even going to look at the fact that I just, was confused by their app, which is confusing. Now, granted, if there's a write-up and stuff, I mean, I would conceivably get some kind of message on my A to Z, or some kind of manager would come up and talk to me about it, and at which point I could go talk to HR about it and be like, hey, that's not me doing time theft, that's me. See, I was trying to cover this time where I left early, and obviously it put it on the wrong date. What the fuck happened here? But still, I mean, the less hassles I have of that nature, the better. Anyway, all's well that ends well. I got it resolved. Now, I wasn't time to time getting there right during the break, but I did. I entered the building right at like 3:15, so I got there as everybody, my coworkers and friends and stuff were going on break. Saw Adam. I haven't seen Adam in like over a week, and I honestly thought, Adam was part of the group that was supposed to be a bunch of people, bunch of the forklift drivers, MP outbound, that I've been working with for the last several months. Some of them like well over half a year. A whole bunch of them got a promotion where they're transferring to another facility to train for Tom Team, which is an actual promotion. That comes with a raise. It's a different category of job. I think they're still technically T1s, but it's enough of a different kind of job that it's a different pay structure. It's a different thing. It's like working for RMA. I think some of the people that work for RME are technically T1s, but they're paid more than some of the T4s because it's such a specialized job. So I might be wrong on that. This is my understanding from what I've been told. I'm by no means an expert of all things Amazon HR, but is my understanding that Tom Team does is a different than just a regular T1, and it does pay. It does come with a pay raise, but it requires extensive training, not just your typical like half a day or full day type class in KNET, and that involved a transfer, I believe, to PHX 6 for the training, and at that point, wherever they got on for their transfer to Tom Team, once they finish their training at PHX 6, they're going to whatever location, and I think most everybody I know is going to TUS1 or TUS2, something, which you would think would be in Tucson, but it's actually here in Phoenix. I've still never fully understood how that works either, because I mean, the one I work at, GYR3, GYR is supposed to be Goodyear, but it's in Phoenix. And the one that my daughter worked at in Portland, very much in the town of Portland, but it was an EUG, which is Eugene, as opposed to PDX, which is Portland. I don't understand how they come up with that site designation coding, but anyway. it is confusing, like a lot of other things in Amazon's business structure. Anyway, so yeah, I hadn't seen Adam in a while, and he told me he had got that promotion for Tom Team. But then when everybody else that was going to Tom Team like had their final days and left, including Edwin, who I miss terribly, and Marcus, who I definitely miss. There were more. Those are the two that I really missed, though. Oh, and of course Malik. Can I forget Malik? Adam was supposed to be part of that group, and then he told me he had some kind of an issue. I don't want to get into details of it. That's kind of private. But there was something about his. It had kind of to do with his driving record, but that he thought he would be able to resolve it. And then I hadn't seen him for like the last week and a half, so I assumed he resolved it and it had been moved over for the Tom Team training over there at I believe it's PHX6. And I've never swapped phone numbers with Adam, so I figured I'm not going to see him anymore either. Bummer, good guy, one of my favorite people to work with. Definitely one of the persons that helped me the most in learning what to do as a freight loader for MP outbound, forklift freight loader. Anyway, saw him coming across. So I was walking over to HR and had to stop and see him, talk to him. It's like, oh my God, you're here. Where you been? What's up? I thought you were on for Tom Team. Told me he nearly got fired and has been suspended from forklift, suspended from pit driving. Presumably also suspended from TDR from what he told me he did. And I don't want to give all the details of it because that's not cool. But without going into much detail, basically he got caught doing something that I would not have personally done, just for the record. But I understand why he did it. And it didn't strike me as something really terrible. But basically something didn't work like it was supposed to do, and he took kind of an orthodox method of trying to resolve the situation involving his forklift. And somebody saw it on camera. They didn't even, like, nobody called him out on doing it in person. Somebody saw it on camera. He said he's suspended over it and nearly got fired over it. So, when I work, I always assume, like, I know there's cameras everywhere. I assume I'm, being watched, and some of that just kind of take for granted. And generally speaking, I don't worry about it. I'm ready to explain pretty much any of my actions. But I tell you, sometimes I do worry that, like, something that I do that I feel is, like, reasonable might be seen on camera and not be viewed as reasonable by the safety person or the HR person or, ops person or whoever is watching that video. So as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, when Cody came up to me and all he said was just, HR needs to see you. And no further information, just HR needs to see you. And holy shit, was that unnerving for me. And like, why? I don't know. I just need to see you. And as I've explained a few times before in this vlog, it was because I was going to hit 60 hours prior to the end of that shift, because I managed to get myself scheduled using I got 2 10-hour additional shifts, so I had myself scheduled for 60 hours, but because there had been days that week where I clocked in a little early or left a little late, I was looking at hitting that 60-hour barrier before the end of the shift. And that's all it was about. But I gotta admit, man, I was having butterflies in my stomach, and I was borderline panic attacks as I'm walking time, and I think it has to do with there are some people. There's two ways to scan pallets into trailers. There's a method called trickle, and then there's a method that's called something else. I don't know what that something else is called because I don't use it. It's not how I was trained by Alex to load pallets, and it's not how I was trained by Alex to load pallets, and it's not how it's just simply not how I do it. Now, at one point in time, that other method, actually it was Adam, showed me how to use it. I forget what the hell it's called. But basically the difference is trickle, which is what I always use. Basically you scan the barcode on the pallet, and then you scan the barcode for the dock door. And you get a confirmation in green text that shows that it's transferred to the trailer. At least you're supposed to. Sometimes you don't. There's a problem, you deal with it. And then repeat. Now, I frequently do as many as like 16. Most of the time, I do 8 at a time. That's kind of my magic number. And often I do 6 at a time. I very rarely do less than 4 at a time. So if I'm saying, oh, you can only do 2 at a time, that's like, really? Pretty ridiculous. Generally speaking, the only time I do 2 pallets at a time is when I'm stacking pallet receive. And I'm one of the very few people that stacks pallet receive. Other than that, and that goes in 2 directions. It's about 50-50 drivers that just are uncomfortable doing the stacking. Like they don't feel they're good enough with, because it's a trickier forklift maneuver, for sure. And for each driver that won't do it because they feel they're nervous doing that, there's that absolutely stunning, beautiful white girl that I was working with that I hung with after my shift on last Saturday day shift. That's what she said it was with her. She's like, I just don't feel comfortable doing that. Which is fair. I mean, if you don't feel comfortable doing it, don't do it, by all means. But I do know that there are also some forklift drivers that have been asked by leadership not to do it. Because the leadership has noticed them stacking things that really shouldn't be stacked together. Some specific examples I can think of is where people have stacked 2 pallets of dog food cans on each other. The problem with that is pallets of dog food cans are extremely heavy, and 2 pallets of dog food cans exceeds the weight capacity of our forklifts. So, yeah, that shouldn't be done. Also, presumably exceeds the weight capacity of the forklifts that will be unloading the truck. So, another thing I've heard of people doing is stacking heavy pallets on top of light pallets, and stacking detergent on top of, like, liquid detergent to potentially leak on top of food. That's you got to use your brain when you're stacking pallet receive, and that's asking a lot of people that work at Amazon. So, but I've definitely been given not only the go ahead, but been strongly encouraged by all the people I know. And whenever I've discussed it with a PA or an AM, I've always been like I'll kind of get the rundown. Like, this is what I do. This is what I don't do. I go, yeah, you're really good at it. Stay on it. I mean, shit, when I loaded that truck that was full of Apple product, which I'm pretty sure I talked about on this vlog, the day I mentioned that I was 100% convinced I was loss prevention's feature presentation. I would estimate the value of that truck was well over $1 million, probably a couple $1 million. Yeah, I'm sure I was I'm sure I was loss prevention and safety's feature presentation that night, because of the super, super high dollar value of pallets I was loading. Loss prevention, making sure I'm not stealing none of that, and safety, making sure that I'm not oh my god, please don't damage that $20,000 pallet. think I did an absolute ace job on that truck, if I do say so myself. But yeah, it was Sean, AM for Inbound, that had actually come up to me and asked me. But he didn't actually ask me specifically, me to do it, but he had asked that that truck be done that way. Let me know. It's like, hey, all that stuff came out of the truck from Apple, double stacked. So it would be great if we could get all that double stacked into the truck that's in 139, which at that point in time, John was working on 139 and 140. But John and I were working together on the pallet receive. So, and John was doing, John's a PG, so he's got a laptop computer, or like one of the workstation computers that he pushes around, like a problem solver would have, and he'll be doing what do you call it? He'll be doing stuff that I don't do, such as scheduling the next trucks and scheduling moves of trucks with Tom Team, which is something I don't do, something I don't know how to do. I have kind of a grasp on like what all goes into it, and at some point I expect they'll probably ask me to do that, but I haven't really been pushing that, just because PG is definitely looked at as a gateway to being a PA, and I very much do not want to be a PA. So yeah, I got a feeling at some point they're just going to ask me to do it, just because it's known that I know what that I'm the guy that knows what he's doing, and I've just got so much seniority there at this point. So, but yeah, it's not something I want to do. Anyway, John very much had his hands full with that. I was just simply moving pallets around. So I was already kind of actively working on Zone 10 and loading pallets in 136, 137, 138. Like, even though his pit was parked in front of 139, 140, which prevents me from loading, which, generally speaking, if his pit's parked there, I'm not supposed to load in those two doors. There is kind of a workaround that doesn't violate a safety rule, but is generally kind of frowned upon. But yeah, at that point, I'm like, hey, you know what? How about I do this truck, since you've got your hands full and could I just get you to move your pit over to the next corral? Which he did, and I loaded the Apple truck. And now I don't even remember why I was talking about the Apple truck. Oh, it's about stacking pallet receive. So yeah, I mean, Sean had very specifically asked that pallet receive be stacked, and had asked me about it, because I mean, Sean is quite comfortable with my skills in stacking pallet receive, and pretty much anything to do with forklift. But in fact, Sean, honestly, I feel like most of the time, Sean for a long time, I feel, has treated me, like, just in his interactions with me and his communications with me, kind of treats me like I'm leadership, even though I'm not. Just because Sean knows that I'm reasonably good at delegating things, even though that's not what I do. Like, that I'm good at asking people to do stuff to get things done, and we'll generally do things myself, but if I need help, I'll ask for it, and I'm pretty good about. Anyway, Sean's always been great with me and treats me with great respect, so he asked that. Let's talk about stacking pallet receive. Oh, I was talking about what Adam said. I was just saying that they're only allowing two things at once. Now, Adam showed me the other method of scanning stuff into trucks, and that involves basically scanning all the barcodes of all the things that you're scanning. So you scan like however many, like up to 10 at a time, and then scan the truck, the QR code for the truck, and it puts them all into the truck at once. It doesn't give you the individual confirmation with the pallet number on every pallet when you do that. It just tells you that the move is completed. So I did it that way once when he showed me how to do it, because I think when he did it, he like switched the mode of my scanner to do it, and it was like, yeah, I'm not used to using this in this mode. This is not the prompt I'm used to when I'm scanning. I was like, oh, this is easy. This is how you do it. And I think I did like one load like that. And I don't think I made any mistakes. reasonably comfortable I did it right. And I didn't, you know, I mean, I every time I do a batch of pallets going into a truck, I always, after I'm done scanning, I always check the screen to make sure that the number is what it should be before I start, or before I finish loading them. I might roll in 2 pallets and then check it again when I come out, because sometimes there's a delay on it. But yeah, I never go more than 4 pallets into the truck if the numbers aren't lining up. And so I think when I did that, like, the numbers lined up, or I wouldn't have kept working. But I know, like, after I did that, I was very uncomfortable not having the confirmation for each individual pallet that I scanned into the truck. And so I figured out how to get the scanner. I always like to call it a gun, and people get uncomfortable. Some people get uncomfortable by the word gun. You know, it's amazing how some more liberal-leaning people are triggered by the word gun. It's like I don't know. To me, that's a gun. That's a gun. But anyway, but yeah, when I'm using the scanner gun, I managed to switch it back to trickle, and I've always used it like trickle ever since. At this point, I don't even know. Not only do I not know how to get to that other mode, I don't know what it's called, which is making it hard for me to describe it. But I just simply don't use it. I did have one time another driver asked me about using that, at which point I told her, like, the right way to do it, and I told her I don't use that. In my opinion, there is no right way to use it. Using it is wrong, and you should be doing everything one at a time through trickle. And she looked at me funny because that was not the answer she wanted. But that's the answer I gave her. So I think she went and got help from somebody else rather than following my advice and doing everything in trickle. Anyway, so Adam was saying, and I was kind of warned about this a few weeks back by Cody as well, that, oh yeah, they're calling it shotgunning if you do more than 2 at a time. Or maybe he said 4 at a time. Adam said 2 at a time. I'm going to keep doing things the way I do until somebody who's actually management comes and talks to me about it. And by management, I mean T4 or higher. When PA comes and talks to me about it, I'm going to be like, I don't think I'm going to tell him point blank I'm not going to do it. But if a PA comes and talks to me about it, I'm going to go talk to either Chris or Dustin about, yeah, this is stupid for me, because I don't use the scan it all at once thing. I use trickle, one-piece flow. I just do it really fast. And I don't write anything down on my manifest until I got confirmation. Like, I get that this policy is being put in place because people are screwing up their manifests and screwing up the stuff in their trucks. But if you can point out a time that I've ever screwed up anything going into a truck, then we have something to talk about. But until then, this shouldn't apply to me. So I'm meticulous as fuck about the way I put the stuff in the trucks. In fact, I'm the guy that's usually fixing other people's mistakes. Usually shit left behind from day shift. But damn, if I'm going to do 2 pallets at a time, scan, load, and come back to, that's just a whole lot of getting in and out of the pit. I'm not down with that. For me, it's all about minimizing the amount of times that I get in and out of the forklift, because that's a time suck, and it's kind of tedious. And it's one of those things that if you do it improperly and they see you on camera, they could safety violation for that. Oh, you didn't have 3 points of contact getting out of the pit. My bad. One of my hands had a scanner in it. So yeah, I kind of minimize that. But generally, like, the way I do it is I get on the forklift, I stage everything how I'm going to do it. Then I put the forklift under the first pallet I intend to stack while everything's still at a single level. Step off, grab my pin and my gun, walk over to the door, grab the clipboard with the pinwheel, and then proceed to scan everything in the exact order that I am going to load it in. I'm very meticulous about that. My pinwheels, the written manifests, and I definitely notice when I'm trying to fix other people's mistakes, other people don't do it this way, but mine are very specific. You can look at where each pallet number is written down, and that tells you specifically where, not only that it's in that truck, but exactly where in that truck that pallet is. Whether it's on the left side or the right side, how many rows back from the front of the truck it is, and whether it's a top or a bottom pallet. I'm very meticulous about that. And the guys that work for quality, the ICQA people, mostly silver. It's mostly silver, and there's this absolutely stunning young African girl. Oh God, I wish I knew her name. She's always super friendly with me too. Like every time I see her in passing, she always just gives me a big smile and wave. She's like, hey. I would love to take her out sometime. She's so out of my league now. And she's young. She's like, I think she's in her mid-20s, and she's in college. She's in university. I'm assuming graduate school. I know she's working on getting her Juris Doctor. She's going to law school right now. So, yeah, I find her attractive on so many levels. That woman is fucking brilliant. We've had some kind of deep conversations every now and then about stuff. We never really sat and talked about law, that she's in it, and that I have an interest in it. But, got distracted just thinking about her. Anyway, it's her, and Silver's the one who audits my trucks the most. I'd say she audits them the second most. And one thing that those guys know for sure, in fact, Silver's told me many times, it's like, hey, yeah. He goes, I know there's never going to be a problem in your truck. But yeah, whenever he comes in, I've like got a whole bunch of stuff out of the truck. Something's like weird. I always like give him a heads up. It's just, hey, just so you know, all the ones that are sitting over there are scanned into the truck. I'm very aware of where we're at here. Or sometimes like, yeah, I'm fixing somebody else's mistake, so I pulled all that shit out. I said, this is the mistake. You might want to come back and audit this way, because I'm trying to fix somebody, because I tell you it's wrong. I'll tell you right now it's wrong. I'm trying to fix it. This is what day shift left me. Anyway, the quality people know that I'm not the guy making the mistakes. I'm fixing I fix other people's mistakes. So I don't know. Let's see if that rule gets applied to me or not, because I'm definitely going to give them pushback on it. On that note, I'm sitting out in front of my apartment talking to myself. It's 4:11 in the morning. I should go inside and find something to do, keep me busy all night. It's kind of a given. I'm not going to find any love tonight. But I mean, granted, I could go back to 27th Avenue, but I'm not really feeling that. No, I think I'm just going to work on my music for a while. Maybe straighten up a little bit. Because as you saw, my place is still a freaking mess. Oh, maybe I'll finish that project of the tape case on the wall that I was all gung-ho about a few weeks back and just dropped the ball on. I got all the pieces sitting in my hall waiting for it. I might actually finish that. Maybe do some laundry. Get myself ready so when the laundromat opens, I'm ready to do some laundry. It's definitely time to do some laundry. Other projects worth working on. Pull the S, just since I did tonight shooting vlogs on Obama Phone 4, completely ran it out of space as I was going down Air Lane. Might be a good idea to pull the, assuming I have the hardware for it, I'm not 100% sure I do, but pull the micro SD card out of Obama Phone 3, transfer all the data from it into my computer, and then put it into Obama Phone 4. That's a project I really need to work on. Yeah, I got plenty of shit to keep me occupied well into the morning. So anyway, thanks for listening to me talk to myself and wander around Phoenix. Silly how much time I wasted driving to work and back just to fix a little mistake. But I know if I'd have called them on the phone, if I'd have called the ERC HR people on the phone, they would have screwed it up, and I'd have just gotten super frustrated because I can't understand their damn Indian accents. And I already screwed it up in the A to Z app. It seemed like me doing more poking around in the A to Z app would have just been asking to screw it up more. So I'm really glad I saw Adam. Also saw a water spider from inbound. I can never remember that dude's name, but typically only work with him because of our schedules. Like he does not work regular, like most people that work, like I'm front half nights and people that work back half nights. It's typically Wednesday are the nights that the one night a week we'll work together. But he's on a slightly different schedule, but it's also considered a back half schedule. But I usually only work with him on Sunday nights. Damn if I can remember his name. I had a good chat with him on the way out to building. Lately on Saturday nights, or on Sunday nights, I mean, he's been the pallet receive outbound water spider. So as I'm like generally the pallet receive guy, like inbound pallet receive water spider. And since I'm generally the one who's handling the majority of the pallet receive now for outbound, it's really nice when he's doing that because him and I coordinate really, really well to get pallet receive where it needs to go. Anyway, thanks for coming with me on the journey and for watching. Like and subscribe if you find it interesting listening to me talk to myself.